Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to take a look at this knife from Fintiso. So Fintiso is a relatively new knife company on the scene. They got started back in 2022, and now that they have a good number of different models out, all of which are pretty nice, they've begun reaching out to different YouTube channels to offer to send us knives in order to get some reviews and publicity out there. So they reached out to me like they have with many other channels and said, hey, would you be interested in doing a review of this knife? She said, sure, absolutely. Send it my way. This is right up our alley. This is definitely a budget knife. Got some really great features, and so want to share it with you. Just in case you're wondering, in case you hadn't seen my last video where I reviewed the 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗄𝗏, which I also got for free to review, and you're wondering, will this affect my opinion and rating of this knife? Go back and watch that video. I think you will then agree that I'm going to give it to you guys pretty honest here, regardless of whether or not I get a knife for free. Almost all the models of knives that they make right now are in 14C28, and they do have a couple that also come in 𝗙𝗏𝗃𝗏𝘁. So again, this is more along a budget line. They do offer a lifetime warranty on all their knives. That's a pretty good thing. They also have some really nice looking kitchen knives, chef knives on their website too. So I would encourage you to check them out if that's something that you're interested in. They'll also be, it looks like, at the SHOT Show 2025. If you're going there, you'll probably see these guys. Maybe stop by the booth and check them out. All right, so before I get started here, if you would, down below here, as always, hit that subscribe notification bell. That really helps us guys out, get our channels more widely viewed. They don't like to share knife videos, so it takes a lot of liking and sharing and subscribing to get the YouTubes to share our videos to new people. Let's take a look at the box it came in. They have a pretty nice box, has this kind of slip cover on the top of it, and then which way does this thing open on the inside here? Nice box, endless exploration, endless sharp. That kind of is their logo motto, I guess. We'll look at the pouch here in a minute. It does come with this little manual. Not much to here other than the lifetime warranty, some basic knife care stuff, and don't cut your head off. Talks about their beginnings in 2022, a little bit of the story. That's cool on the backstory. Traditional, typical velvet lined pouch, a little sticker in there, the fiber cloth. But one of the nice things, again, for being a budget knife, and this knife is, I think, $57 on the website, but you can use my code 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗏 and get an additional 10% off of that. Additional hardware, that's something you don't always get when you get a budget knife. So these guys are really kind of going the extra mile to show the world, hey, we're here and we've got some good knives and we'd love for you to check us out. All right, again, this is the Atlas model in G10 contoured scales, nested steel liners, 14C28 and blade. Let's do some size comps. Really hard to get the size feeling of this. This is kind of a mid-sized knife, mid to full size. So Benchmade Crooked River obviously is bigger than just about every knife that we put on the table, and Benchmade Bug Out, which is considerably smaller. So right in between those two models, if that gives you a sense, if you're a Spyderco person, we can look at the PM2, in this case the 𝗙𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃, same size, versus the Para 3. You can see again the Fintiso fits beautifully right in between there. So somewhere like a nice EDC, but I'm going to call this also a semi-decent hard work knife. We're going to take a look and see why that's the case. Vision FG and the regular Pyrite Light. This is not the large. So again, very close to the 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗏 Vision. If you've got one of those, this is going to be right about that size, but even more of a cutting length on the blade than the Vision is. So hopefully that gives you a decent sense of how it fits size-wise. All right, let's take a closer look here. I always like to start with the pocket clip. Let's get that closed down. So this is interesting. I can't quite figure this out. This is definitely not steel. It is not magnetic at all. I'm going to guess maybe aluminum, because if it was titanium, I would think they would scream that from the rooftops. That's a really cool selling feature. So I'm going to guess it's aluminum. Interesting shape. Look at how long that beak is on it. This is a great pocket clip, I got to tell you. One screw, but it sits in a nice deep milled pocket in the scales there. It is not reversible, unfortunately. No lefty love there, but really well done pocket clip. That ramp slides so easy in and out of your pockets, but the backside is steeper, so it holds in your pocket better but it slides in and out with ease. Great, well done pocket clip, nice low profile, doesn't really create much of a hot spot. So that's a pretty cool little feature there. The tension is great. If anything, I guess for the pocket clip, it could be a little shorter. There's no real need to have it that long. It does exceed, 50% of the half of the knife length here. So they could cut, I don't know, a ½ inch or so off of there. I think it would be just as good, if not better, that way. Just a suggestion. Otherwise, no issues there. The hardware is a T8 pivot screw, but all the body screws and clip screws are T6s. Pretty standard for what you get at this price range. Not a big deal. They did countersink the screws into the scales, so they don't stick out above the scales very much at all. That's a nice little additional touch. It is a captured pivot. You can see it's got their F logo on this side, just that D-shaped pivot barrel with the standard T8 screw on that side. The pin, stop pin, is about typical fare for what you get for most flipper knives. Not too big, not too small. There is a little bit of shouldering you can see on the blade that fits into there very nicely. Really nice, solid lockup. No blade play that way. However, I did notice just a very tiny hint of pivot lash right here. It's minuscule. It's certainly not going to affect or hurt the function of the knife in any way. But when I took it apart, one of the things that I discovered is that for some reason, the bearings that they use on this knife don't fit properly around the pivot. How's that for a visual there? They are a little loose around the pivot. I'm not sure why they did that or why they chose those bearings, but I think that's what's contributing just to a minuscule amount of in and out. You can just barely feel it. There is no detent lash. The flipper tab is great. You can see they've got jimping. It's a nice high flipper tab. Sits, high above the pivot there. Just high enough with that jimping. It is solid all day long. You can push button it. You can light switch it. Either way, it works like a champ. The little pill-shaped opening obviously gives you a whole nother deployment method. Very easy to reverse flip this knife all day long. Thumb is probably my least favorite, but if you like it, it certainly works just great on this knife. I'll tell you, the detent on this thing is dialed in perfectly for both the flipper tab and the thumb flips there, the finger flips, either side. It's almost impossible to fail this knife. That's just a perfect detent. Like, I'm trying and cannot fail it. That tells me detent is perfect. Relatively stiff, but certainly not so much that it's a problem or that you notice it. To me, again, it's just perfect. In terms of bouncing out, well, you can see one of the things I should say on the detent, it's a late detent, so I'm still not on the detent ball there. So that's a lot of travel before it gets onto the detent ball right there. So if you're not careful, you can double clutch this thing, which I just did a minute ago. So if you ride the lock bar release high and don't let that drop far enough, you can see it's locked up and you can double clutch. What you do is you just use the middle of that lock bar, let it drop down to the flipper tab, hit your thumb, and then you are always past that. And you can see really nice action. It has broken in very nicely. It was much stiffer than this when I first got it. But, 100 flips in, this thing is very smooth on the action. I'm very happy with that. That's really nice. I mean, all of those elements are great to have in an affordable knife like this. It is riding on nested steel liners. Let me see if I can get the light just right. You can barely see inside. These are heavily milled out on both sides, actually, to reduce the weight. Nice nested steel liners there. You've got great access to the lock bar. Nice cutaway right there. Plus, they've kind of chamfered the edge of the lock bar right here, and they've almost done jimping. So this, to me, is perfect. If you look at it from this angle, it's not jimped here, but they've cut in these little indentations right here on this side, which gives you just that little bit of extra grip without actually poking into your finger like some lock bars do that are like truly jimped. So great job. I got to give them a lot of credit on that lock bar access as well as the design of it. Thumbs up for both of those. Lockup on this knife is about 25 to 30% of the blade. It is solid. You can whack this thing all day long. I have hit it much harder and longer than that. It does not break free. So solid lockup is great. The scales on this thing contoured, nice, really nicely contoured G10. Nice and smooth all the way around. Feels great in the hand. very nicely finished, no sharp edges. They do have a little bit of kind of decorative milling up here towards the top, just to add a little bit more to it. You've got a matching G10 backspacer, pretty unobtrusive lanyard holes. For those of you who like lanyards, doesn't get in the way. Works pretty great right there. That's a nice way to do it. The blade, as we mentioned, is a 14C28N. Drop point with a sweeping belly on this. Very functional for all kinds of different uses. I'm going to call this a heavily blackwashed. It's not quite like a rubberized PVD coating. And if you look closely around some of the edges, you can see it's kind of worn away, almost like a stone wash finish type of thing. But it's also, you know, pretty thick on there. Definitely is going to be protective of that blade, although 14C is really very corrosion resistant, very tough blade. Not the best edge retention of the budget steels, but certainly a fantastic budget steel that most everybody agrees with. Nice swedge up on the top here. It's a very pokey, sharp tip. Definitely good for any kind of poking type stuff. It has a really nice thumb ramp back here. It's a great feature. Good jimping. That jimping is very functional. There is no forward choil, obviously, on this knife, so you're going to be mostly gripping it back here. I have a size large glove. In case you're wondering about the size, you could easily fit much larger hands. But that jimping and that thumb ramp right there in this position gives you really, I mean, that's going to be great. I look forward to doing some cut tests with this. This is very comfortable in the hand. I would even feel comfortable if I was cutting softer materials like some cardboard boxes. This I would use as a trigger and really get up there. But if you're going to do that, you got to watch out. I mean, you're right on top of this blade, one slip, and you're going to end up cutting yourself. So I don't recommend that. Just letting you know, I might do that from time to time myself. All right, what have I missed here? Thumb ramp, good flipper tab, bearings. This does run on open face ceramic bearings. I think I mentioned that earlier. Interestingly enough, the bearings don't seem to fit exactly right around the pivot. I'm not sure why they did that. That was an interesting choice on the engineering. They are the open face style. So they're not like the really fancy, expensive or anything like that, but they certainly work. If you've been watching the knife, the action on this knife, it is not quite fully drop shut, but it doesn't take more than a shake, and really one firm shake and it's closed. You can see it's mostly dropping on its own right down to there. Not too crazy about the branding, putting their name on it, but this is a new company, and you know, they haven't quite learned yet. They haven't had enough people reviewing their knives telling them, please don't put your name that big on the front of the knife like that. I mean, even if you wanted to put it small somewhere else on the blade, that would be okay, although not ideal. You've got your logo right here. The nice knives, the upscale brands, you will see very rarely put their name in big bold letters on the front of the blade. But again, they're a new company trying to get their name out there, so I can't really fault them for wanting to do that. The blade centering came dead on, very nice. Sharpening choil is barely, almost non-existent, but they did give us a little tiny bit there. Unfortunately, you know, with the slope of that plunge line, you got one or two sharpenings probably in this before you're going to start developing a smile. So that would be one of my other recommendations that they could do, is add a little bit more to that sharpening choil. That certainly is nice for those of us who need to sharpen. You can see I have now double clutched this. I haven't double clutched it yet, but I didn't drop it past the pivot. So there's your double clutch. Again, let it drop all the way till that flipper hits your fingernail and it's closed. All right, factory sharp, it came okay, not bad. You know, it's average for what you get from most factories. I want to rate this about a 7 out of 10 on the redneck scale. It definitely will cut. I mean, that's not bad at all. It's not hanging up anywhere. There's certainly no nicks or hang-ups. That's me. Again, yeah, there you go. So something about once I've cut a piece of the paper, it doesn't ever want to cut again. But now I'll go over here to a clean side. Just trying to show y'all it's not really the knife, it's the cutter in this case. And there you go, smooth as ice again. So, sharp, 7 out of 10. I haven't stropped it. I didn't want to do anything to this blade because I didn't want to affect this review in any way, that probably will sharpen up to at least a 9 on the redneck scale. No problem there. That's what 14C is really all about. Ergonomically, this is great. I've already told you, great G10 scales, contoured, pocket clip is not obtrusive. It feels great in the hand. Nice neutral shape handle. You know, there's a million knives with this type of handle. Feels good. That jimping, I like the way it locks your thumb in with that little ramp back there. So just about everything about the ergonomics of this is really good. Very solid all the way around. Let's talk about any negatives. Hard to find much wrong with this really at this price, especially. Again, the pocket clip's not reversible for lefties. T6 body screws, those could be T8s, but you know, that's what you get mostly in this this level, this price tier. That slight pivot lash where the pivot bearings don't quite fit the pivot exactly right, that's a little weird, but not a functional issue at all. And the sharpening choil could be a little bit bigger. So there you go. Those are the only nitpicks I can give. And I'm going to challenge you to find any knife in this price range with nice contoured G10 scales and a nice 14C blade that doesn't have those exact same conditions. So what they've done is put out a very impressive, very competitive offering. If you like the style and the design, this is a great knife. It's fairly beefy. I wouldn't worry about bending or damaging the blade. It's certainly very pokey, comfortable. This would be like an all-day work knife that you don't have to worry about. You can strop it back to, you know, hair shaving sharp at the end of the day very easily. It's going to feel good in the hand using this thing. I could see using this for extended cutting periods without having any issues. So to me, fantastic medium duty work knife, excellent beater knife. Certainly would be a great camping or outdoor knife. With the 14C steel is very corrosion resistant. Otherwise G10 scales are going to hold up really well. Great action. So yeah, I can definitely recommend this. If you like the style and the design, you want a nice 14C blade that's pretty stout and beefy, going to be very comfortable to use probably for most of your work day. This is definitely a great option, something to that you could consider. You know, being a new company, it's going to be very interesting to see how these guys start really competing in this market space going forward. They've got some really nice knives. You should go check them out on the website. Oh, I didn't mention this. By the way, I should. I will have a link below that is an affiliate link. I think I mentioned that, so you'd be helping out the channel. Thank you very much if you want to do that. But you can use discount code 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗄, all one word, 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗄 will get you 10% off any knife on their website. So again, if you want to check out that link below, they've got some other really cool designs. Maybe one of those others speak to you. They're all 14C. Most all of them have a variety of either G10 or aluminum scales. Go check them out, but use that code 𝗙𝗶𝗃𝗄. Get 10% off anything you like. Otherwise, I would appreciate it greatly if you guys would go down, hit that subscribe if you're not already. Throw your boy a thumbs up if I did okay. If this is good content, thumbs down. Let me know what I did wrong. I'm always open to hearing everybody's opinions. Otherwise, I appreciate y'all so much, and we will see y'all on the next video. Take care.